Good day, beautiful people. Today we will take a look at your urinary system. Okay, of a pair or your urinary system consists of a pair of kidneys, which is responsible in the urine formation, and then a pair of ureters that will convey the urine from the kidneys going to the urinary bladder, and then of course your urethra here. This one is it will deliver urine from the urinary bladder going to the outside environment. Okay, you have a pair of kidneys, a pair of ureters, one urinary bladder, and then one urethra also. The urinary system removes toxic byproducts of metabolism from the bloodstream by warming your urine. Again, this is actually the main function of your urinary system in removing toxic metabolites or toxic byproducts of metabolism from the blood. No? Okay, and yes, these the actions are performed by your two kidneys. The action of removing toxic byproducts of metabolism from the blood is performed by the two kidneys. Sabi natin earlier, you have a pair of kidneys. And yes, your kidneys do not only remove toxins from the bloodstream, but they also conserve salts, glucose, proteins, and water, as well as other materials important or essential for proper health. Okay, yes, because soon as we go through and take a look at the renal physiology, there is what you call as renal reabsorption. Okay, renal secretion, yung mga ganun po. Okay, and so those functions, those renal reabsorption, those functions are important in conserving salts, glucose, proteins, and other important substances needed for normal functioning of the body. Okay, since your kidneys, it is what they call this, responsible in eliminating and conserving substances. The kidneys also help regulate blood pressure, as well as hemodynamics and acid-base balance of the body. Okay, and so if you listened attentively in your lectures on what they call this, in your lectures in biochemistry, you learned that your kidneys, they are also responsible in maintaining acid-base balance. Okay, they are also responsible in maintaining acid-base balance by regulating the amount of bicarbonate and hydrogen ions. Okay, your urine, this is an ultrafiltrate of plasma. Okay, urine is produced by the ultrafiltration of your through the ultrafiltration of your plasma. And yes, your urine contains metabolic byproducts, as what we said earlier. And your urine here is delivered from the kidneys into the two ureters, going down to your urinary bladder, and it is emptied via your urethra. Your urethra here, this is a vessel, or yes, a yes, it is a structure that delivers the urine to the outside of the body. Okay, that is your urethra. Your kidneys, aside from doing your filtration function to remove toxic metabolites from the bloodstream, they also have an endocrine function. Okay, your kidneys, they produce renin. This one is a part of your renin angiotensin aldosterone system. And yes, we will take a look at this one very brief as we move through sooner. And then aside from that, you have your erythropoietin. Your erythropoietin here, if you try to remember, when we talk about your blood and hemopoiesis, your erythropoietin here, this is a hormone produced by the kidneys, which is important or which will stimulate blood cell production and proliferation. Sorry, it should be red blood cell production and proliferation. Also, your kidneys is capable of producing prostaglandins. Aside from producing renin, erythropoietin, and prostaglandins, your kidneys is capable, or it converts a circulating not very active form of your vitamin D3. This not very active form of vitamin D3, which is known as 25 hydroxy vitamin D3, is converted by your kidneys into its active form. Okay, your kidneys will convert inactive vitamin D3 into an active vitamin D3 known as your calcitriol. So, it is safe to say that your kidneys is capable of synthesizing calcitriol. Okay? By the way, your calcitriol here is otherwise known as 125 dihydroxy vitamin D3. Again, your calcitriol is otherwise known as 125 dihydroxy vitamin D3. And yes, in the context of carbohydrate metabolism, your kidneys, they are also capable, or they have this ability to synthesize glucose from non-carbohydrate sources. The process is known as gluconeogenesis. Your kidneys, they are capable of performing gluconeogenesis. Yes, your gluconeogenesis. Please note that your liver also is capable of doing or performing gluconeogenesis. That is actually the main organ for gluconeogenesis. But then, on an interesting note, your kidneys, in the kidneys, sorry, the rate of gluconeogenesis is, can equal the rate of in the liver. Okay, your kidneys can equal the rate of gluconeogenesis in the liver. Okay. Let's take a look at your water intake and water loss. So, accordingly, on a daily basis, an individual's intake of water is approximately 2.1 liters, which is gained from what are the sources of your water intake? They are from your liquid plus the water content of the food. And there is an additional 200 ml of water that is formed by the body due to carbohydrate oxidation. Yes, usually as part of the what you call this as part of your carbohydrate metabolism or reactions in the body, water, H2O is a byproduct. H2O is produced. And yes, water loss in the body is due to a number of sources. You have your insensible loss, loss due to sweat, and loss in the feces, as well as loss due to the kidneys. For your insensible water loss, it occurs in two ways, via the process of breathing, okay, wherein an individual loses approximately 3.50 ml of water per day via the process of breathing. Okay, while via diffusion through the skin, an individual loses approximately 350 ml per day. Diffusion through the skin is different from sweating. Okay, it is different from sweating. Okay, both of this, both of your breathing and both of your diffusion through the skin leaves 300, removes, okay, loses 350 ml of water per day, respectively. Okay, each of them loses 350 ml of water per day. Okay, and then your water loss due to sweating is about 100 ml per day. Water loss, please note, due to sweating is only about 100 ml per day. But then, of course, it changes. This water loss due to sweating changes due to weather. Okay, if the weather is warm or if there is a hot weather, of course, you sweat a lot. Okay, or during strenuous exercise, wherein uh, it can reach as high as 10 liters per day. Okay, it can reach as high as 10 liters per day. And then water loss in the feces, approximately 100 ml per day. And then water loss through the kidneys is approximately 1,400 ml per day. We're talking about approximate here. Okay, because as soon as you move into your uh clinical microscopy, okay, when you will study your urine already, you will learn that there is this range, okay? Yes, overall, okay, water loss through the kidneys is greatest, okay, at 1,400 ml per day. And yes, the loss of water should equal the amount of water an individual takes in. And yes, it is the responsibility of the kidneys to adjust the loss of water in urine to ensure a balanced water conservation. Okay, your kidneys, they have the ability to adjust. Okay, they have the ability to adjust water release, okay, and water reabsorption. Okay, and so based on the need of the body. If you remember, we talk about your arginine vasopressin, okay, that will affect the water reabsorption in the kidneys. Okay, again, your kidneys, they are responsible in adjusting the loss of water in the urine to ensure that there is a balance in water conservation. Okay, with that being said, please note that the kidneys, they play an important role in the body's water balance. Okay? Yes, they are large, reddish, bean-shaped organs that are situated retroperitoneally. Okay, sa may likod po na portion. No? Okay, they are on the posterior abdominal wall. And yes, please note that because of the position of your liver, anatomical position of the liver, the right kidney is approximately 1 to 2 centimeters lower than the left. They are 1 to 2 centimeters lower than the left. And yes, okay, let's take a look at these dimensions. Each kidney is about 11 centimeters long, 4 to 5 centimeters in width, or wide, 4 to 5 centimeters wide, and 2 to 3 centimeters in thickness. And yes, your kidneys, they are embedded in a perirenal fat, and it lies with its convex border that is situated laterally and its concave hilum that faces medially. Okay, of course, the two kidneys, okay, the outer portion, they are convex. Okay, and then the what they call this, the hilum is concave. Okay, your hilum here, okay, by the way, okay, this is your this is your convex border, and then this is your concave hilum. This portion is your concave hilum. Your hilum, that is the site wherein the branches of the renal artery and the renal vein, as well as your lymph vessels, as well as your ureter, pierce the kidney accordingly. That is where at the hilum portion, that is the concave medial portion of the kidney, wherein that is the site of entry of your ureter, your renal vein, renal artery, and lymph vessels. Okay? If you try to take a look at this illustration, you have your hilum. This is the hilum portion. This one is what they call this. This one is a renal pelvis. Of course, this is your ureter that is connected to your ureter. Okay. You have your renal artery, your renal vein, of course, your nerves. This is also the site of entry of your nerves to the kidneys. Okay. Kidneys is invested by a thin, loosely adhering capsule. Okay, yes, your kidneys, they are encapsulated. And yes, this capsule is made of dense, irregular, collagenous connective tissue with occasional elastic fibers and smooth muscle cells. Okay, usually pa rin, okay, capsules of your organs, they are made of dense, irregular, collagenous connective tissue. And yes, the capsule of your kidney has two layers, of course. You have the layer, which is the outer layer, which is made of fibroblast and collagen fibers, and the inner layer, which is made of myofibroblast. Okay, that is for the capsule of your kidney. Okay, and so the outermost portion here, the thin portion, that is the capsule. Your kidneys, they are subdivided into an outer cortex and an inner medulla. Okay, you have an outer cortex, this is the cortex, and then you have here the inner medulla. Okay, the region that appears dark brown and granular is your cortex, while the medulla contains 6 to 12 discrete, 1, 2, 3, yes, 6 to 12 discrete pyramid shape, which are pale and striated accordingly. And you call this pyramid shaped, pale striated regions of the medulla. You call it as your renal pyramid. Okay, interestingly, your renal cortex receives 90 to 95% of the kidney's blood supply. Okay, your renal pyramid, the base of each pyramid is oriented toward the cortex. Okay, they are oriented toward the cortex, and you call them as your cortico-medullary junction. Okay, there is, or sorry, cortico-medullary border. Okay, the base of your renal pyramid is oriented toward the cortex. Okay, and you call that as your cortico-medullary border. While the apex, okay, the apex that points towards the hilum. Okay, it points towards the hilum. Okay, this is the apex of a renal pyramid. Okay, you call them as the renal papilla. Okay, the renal papilla, okay, of your renal pyramid points toward the hilum. Okay, and this, the apex of your renal pyramid or the renal papilla, this is perforated by 20 openings of the ducts of Bellini. Okay, you have openings present at the apex accordingly. You have 20 openings, okay, 20 or so, 20 or more openings of ducts of Bellini. This, I mean, at the apex of the pyramid. Okay, this this 20 or more so openings of your ducts of Bellini, it provides a sieve-like region at that portion, okay? A sieve, okay, or a strainer, okay? It provides a sieve-like region at that area. And you call that area as your area cribrosa. Your area cribrosa, that is your sieve-like region at the uh, apex of your renal pyramid. Okay? And then of course the apex of your renal pyramid is surrounded by a cup-like space. Okay, this cup-like space, this one here, ito, these are your cup-like space, and you call them as your minor calyx. Okay, you call them as your minor calyx. Okay, your minor calyx joins two or three neighboring minor calyces to form your major calyx. Okay, two or three to form your major calyx, and then you'll have your renal pelvis. Okay, this major calyx will converge to form your what they call this renal pelvis. Okay, your major calyces again, they what they call this, they are 3 to 4, and they empty into the renal pelvis. Your renal pelvis here, this is an expanded continuation of the proximal portion of the ureter. Okay, this is your ureter, of course. This is already your renal pelvis. Okay, you have your renal pelvis. Okay, you have your minor calyx, major calyx, minor calyx, minor calyx, major calyx. Okay? Yes. Please note that you have your, what you call this, your renal pyramids, the neighboring pyramids, they are separated from each other by by a material that resembles the cortex of the kidney. And you call them as your cortical columns. Your cortical columns here, they separate your neighboring pyramids from each other. Okay, you have your cortical or your renal column. Okay, this is a renal column, this is a renal column or cortical column, or other references to call this as, they call it as your columns or cortical columns of Bertin. And yes, there is the portion of the cortex overlying the base. You call it as your, again, cortical arch, or you have your corticomedullary junction. Okay? Again, this one is an illustration of your kidneys. Okay? Of course, you have here the outermost portion, you have the renal capsule. Okay? You have here your renal, you have your renal hilum. Okay, concave medial border, wherein your nerves, your blood vessels, as well as your lymph and your renal pelvis pierce through. Okay, and then you have your renal cortex, your renal medulla, okay, your renal columns, okay, and then you have your renal pyramid, okay, the base is your cortical arch or your corticomedullary junction, and then you have the renal papilla, the tip, you can see here your area cribrosa, and then you have here your renal sorry, your minor calyx. Okay, you have a minor calyx and then major calyx, and then you have the renal pelvis. Okay. Your renal lobe is made of a renal pyramid associated with cortical arch and a cortical column. Okay, that is why your kidneys, they are also lobulated. Okay, again, your renal lobe is made of a renal pyramid. Okay, you have one renal pyramid and then a cortical arch. Okay, cortical arch or corticomedullary junction, and then a renal column. Okay, your renal column. Okay, so again, it is safe to say that each medullary ray with part of the cortical labyrinth surrounding it is considered as a kidney lobule. Again, kidneys, the human kidney, they are multilobar organs. Okay, the macroscopic structure that is observed in the cortex of your kidneys. First, you have your renal corpuscles that appear as a red dot-like granules. They are red dot-like granules. Okay, your renal corpuscles. And then you have your convoluted tubules. And they are the cortical labyrinth, and then your medullary rays, which are the longitudinal striations of your cortical portion. Okay, they are cortical continuations of the materials from your renal pyramid. Thank you for reaching this far, and I guess we will continue some other time. Okay, this has been Gael, reminding you to live fully, love deeply, laugh often, keep learning, and never forget to enjoy the ride. This is Gael again, forever grateful. Thank you and see you around.